Welcome to the D-List. What is going on with all these different types of couplers? Well, that's a really good question. Here's a brief history of what is going on. When Flyer first started into the S-gauge market, their hope was to use a knuckle coupler, but because of some legalities, they were not able to when they started. So their solution was to come out with something called a link coupler. There's basically three variations. First was a thin link coupler with no counterweight. Then they realized that a counterweight would really help with keeping the coupler down, so they added a brass counterweight. And then after a few years, they added a black counterweight. And the way these work is at the end of cars, you'll see there's a metal pin, and these couplers will overlap from one car to the next and grab a hold of that metal pin with the notch, and that's how you pull the train along. Starting around 1953-54, they finally got permission to go to a knuckle coupler, and this was really a nice addition to the Flyer fleet. And what's so cool about these is they really work. So there's a knuckle that when it's pressed, it closes and it locks. And then obviously you can pull the train, pull the cars along that way. And they had a weight on the bottom of them, and when this weight was pressed upward, it would release the knuckle. And so what's so neat about that is if you were to stop these cars over what's called an uncoupler, there's a center piece that rises up between the rails, either via a solenoid or a button, and that will push up on these weights and allow the cars to come apart. It also works with these link couplers, as it will lift those up as well and allow those cars to be separated. Late in the American Flyer business cycle and near the end of their production, they switched from an actual operating knuckle coupler to a static or non-operating knuckle coupler that looked like this. Now, these later model couplers will still work with the knuckle coupler, because they fit in like this. However, because the way these are designed, they spread apart. And while you can push cars together that way, they tend to be a little bit flimsy, and your train length is somewhat limited because they will separate and cars will come apart. So welcome to American Flyer.